Hi everyone, I'm Micah with Silicon Valley Global News, and I'm here with Kieran. He's representing Decentraland
Hey,
today. Hey Kieran, how you doing? Um,
doing
so,
great. Thanks for inviting me on.
so Kieran is going to give a talk at SFVR Novem, San Francisco Virtual Reality Novem. If you go to sfvr360.com, you can get a ticket for that. He is one of our keynote speakers. He's going to be one of the first people to speak. And let's see. So this is the Decentraland website that I want to show you real quick. I don't know if you can see that. But if you go to decentraland.org, that is the link for that website. Let me go ahead and close that. And this is the logo for San Francisco Virtual Reality, which is where the event is going to be at. I'll go ahead and close this one. sfvr360.com. And so we decided to do this sort of like introductory meetup so I could talk to Kieran to get a preview of what his speech is going to be about at SFVR. And by the way, our theme is the convergence of science, technology, and the convergence of cutting-edge ideas, cutting-edge science, and cutting-edge technology. And that includes the convergence of blockchain with WebVR. Which is on topic with
That's
Kieran's post. And did you guys know that
right.
Decentraland
Yep.
is going to be 100% WebVR based blockchain? Right? Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So they decided to use A-Frame as the framework for making it available across all sorts of different browsers. So
Awesome. So
it's pretty exciting. Yeah.
behind us is these are going to be the slides that we're going to use for the event for Kieran's speech. So Kieran, go ahead and introduce yourself. Like maybe tell us a little bit about you and where you came from and how you got to
Yeah.
join Decentraland.
Sure. So my name's Kieran, like you said, Micah. Thanks for bringing me on. My Twitter handle's @kfarr. And I've been a huge fan of VR since the DK1 came out. I don't even know when that was, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like this.
Oh yeah, so you're an OG.
So
You're a
then
VR OG then.
an
Sure.
OG, right? So I have the
Yeah, a
DK1,
modern OG.
DK2.
Yeah, since the DK1, that's a modern age OG. There's an older, but anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, I've loved VR since then and seen the potential. And then about 2 years ago, I got wind of this web-based VR thing, and I thought that's pretty cool. And then somebody turned me on to A-Frame, which is a very high-level framework for using declarative syntax, so it's like HTML, to make VR scenes. So I tried using Unity, I tried Unreal, and I did those tutorials where it takes you like 5 hours to make a scene, and it's okay. But when I used A-Frame, I was able to like make something very, very quick.
Yeah.
And I would describe myself as a lazy developer, so I like high leverage. So when I do a few lines of code and I see something that looks really good, that gets me excited to do more.
So
I was hooked a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So Decentraland strongly believes in the power of A-Frame to be the next developer tool for WebVR and Decentraland.
Yeah. Right. So then good point. We can just to transition over to what is Decentraland and how am I involved in that. So Decentraland started a few years ago by a couple guys. Let me see if I can scroll up to show their pictures at all. Here we go.
Oh, what is that a picture of?
Okay, so this is Ari and Esteban, two of the co-founders. So they have been involved in cryptocurrency concept startups for many years. And Esteban is a very skilled developer, done a lot of stuff in crypto, way more than I understand. And so their goal when they launched Decentraland was to make it all built on open source technology. And so WebVR for them was a requirement, not just like a nice to have, so that the entire experience is something that could be accessed with open source tools. And one of the effects of that is that even if you as a user don't like the client, or you don't like the way it was developed, nothing is proprietary. So you can actually change it. You can build your own client. So that was kind of the ethos behind creating this in the first place.
Okay. And so maybe we should tell people a little bit about. So, wow. See, it's like the quality of the image. So, so what are
Can you see it okay?
Yeah, Yeah, I can see that. I'm just watching how the text is like degrading because of the network connection and stuff. It's kind of cool.
Funny.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about. So Decentraland was in the news for raising a huge amount of, successfully raising a huge amount of funds for a virtual blockchain-based cryptocurrency. Can you explain what the concept was and why that was a winning concept for investors?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, the founders had a lot of background in cryptocurrency from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So they wanted to make sure that they started Decentraland with a very strong economy. And so there's essentially two different crypto tokens used in this project. And the one that they made available first is called Mana. And so it's the in-game currency. A lot of different metaverse applications like Second Life, World of Warcraft, all things have currency, but they're centrally controlled. So the big difference here was that they wanted to build an economy that was open and that could be used in an auditable fashion. So everyone sees exactly how much money is available in the system that's published. So the basic currency is Mana.
Mana, okay. That's like every other blockchain type of currency? It's people have computers that can mine for Mana? Okay.
That's right. And so there's a certain type of token, and it's built on top of the Ethereum blockchain.
Okay.
And then the next step is that later this year, in December, those who hold Mana tokens can then enter into an auction and then purchase land parcels. And those land parcels are themselves another token. So there's two types of tokens that are used in this environment.
Oh, interesting. That's very interesting. So the land inside Decentraland is another kind of token.
That's right.
That's fascinating.
That's right. And so the idea here, so then getting back to your point, they sold $26 million worth of the Mana currency. And at this point, it's a freely traded token, which means anybody can go online right now. Like, you didn't miss out because the token sale's over.
Nobody missed out.
Traded on multiple exchanges. Right.
Okay.
In fact, you can actually look at the price of Mana relative to the US dollar and Ethereum and Bitcoin. It changes over time just like any other token.
Okay.
So you can actually go onto these various exchanges and trade that right now. You have to, it's a little bit of involvement. You have to trade US dollar or whatever your currency is into Ether, Bitcoin, and then use those exchanges to get Mana.
Okay.
And then that's what you would use then to essentially lay your stake or your claim in a parcel of land or multiple land parcels, which make up what they're calling a district.
So do land parcels have like a sort of virtual GPS coordinate? Like are they?
Good question. Yes, totally.
Okay.
In fact, let me show you a nice little picture here. So yeah, each parcel has, I don't know if you can see my laser pointer. I guess not. So each parcel has an X and Y coordinate.
Yeah.
The basic structure, like the architecture here, is that each parcel is essentially a token, and this token has very simple metadata on it. It's very simple. It is the X and Y location.
Yep.
And then a hash that points to essentially a descriptor of the scene. So that hash is unique and points to the file that represents all the contents of your parcel.
So it's a vector, an X and a Y, and it points to something.
Then that's exactly right. And then the parcel descriptor is stored in a system called IPFS.
Yep.
That's interplanetary file storage or file system. It sounds fancy, but it's very similar to BitTorrent. So if you understand BitTorrent, there's a lot of similarities to this mechanism. In fact, Filecoin, which was an ICO that happened earlier this year, Filecoin is built on top of IPFS. And essentially, the people who made Filecoin have maintained and created the IPFS project. So what's interesting about it is that this, getting back to the whole concept of decentralized metaverse, this is all decentralized. So it's running on the blockchain, which of course runs on all these different nodes that anybody can host.
That's right.
And then IPFS itself, as a storage mechanism, runs on a bunch of different nodes.
There is an overly simplified way to explain the blockchain to people. Just imagine, and this is not 100% correct, but just imagine that the internet itself serves as the storage space for this virtual land. But it really, it's just, the certain computers within the internet. But in a sense, it's the internet, part of the internet.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I think about it. It's a collective, like it's almost like going back in the day when everyone was running, Napster
I've seen
on their computers.
so some people who are, maybe they're traditional business people and they're wondering how could this be a real business? Well, you guys have pointed to the fact that Second Life is a similar but older business with older technologies, but it's basically what is it, like $1 billion industry, the Second Life, just by itself? Like, it's a virtual land. And it has over.
It's huge. Yeah.
It's a huge economy. So that is an example of an older version of like an ancestor to what Decentraland is building with modern technologies, with the blockchain, with WebVR. So it definitely it's not like they're. I mean, it's not. There definitely is proven proven business models for what they're building here. So this is definitely exciting stuff. So what else are you going to share in your presentation at San Francisco VR?
Yeah. So one of the things we were talking about is that there's one land parcel, but then you can actually put multiple pieces of land together, which then creates a district.
Okay.
And so if you go to the Decentraland, they have kind of like Slack. It's like a chat group. And what you'll find is that there's this whole community that's sprung up around creating these different districts. So essentially people are recruiting each other to build these different themed districts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's everything under the sun. There's like medieval districts, there's like modern day districts, futurism, people trying to replicate kind of real life, games districts. So it's kind of fascinating to see all the effort that's going into these people working together. And so what they're doing is that they're pooling their resources so that they can all pay stakes or claims to land that are adjacent to each other.
Okay.
And if you really want to go down the Ethereum crypto rabbit hole, there are mechanisms in place that allow for multiple parties to have a smart contract together. And so part of the thing that people get really excited about, and is way beyond my understanding at this point, is how you have governance across. So imagine your group of people, you've pooled together your mana to purchase these various plots of land
that are close to each other.
Things like, what sort of content is on here? Yeah, exactly. How do you deal with things like, well, what if people have objectionable content on there?
Right.
Or what if people want to join?
Which is something that Second Life would have a problem with that, and some other. So these are real questions that your company is addressing and thinking about and saying, well, how can we do this in a better way?
That's right. And honestly, I would say that there are no perfect answers. And what's interesting is that the approach that Decentraland is taking is not saying we know the answers. So that's the really big difference, where with these previous systems like Second Life, all centralized. So someone at Second Life had to make these decisions on behalf of everyone. And what's unique in this case is that the different districts can make whatever decisions they want.
So the communities are self-policing, in a sense. The communities are self-policing. Right. I imagine that this could involve like smart contracts because it's built on Ethereum.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay.
That's exactly right. So that's we've kind of gone through two of the three components of Decentraland. So we talked about the mechanism where land is stored as a token. Okay. We've talked about how the scene, the descriptor of the contents of the land, is stored in IPFS. Now the missing element is less persistent data. So things that are more like peer-to-peer communication or short-term changes that don't permanently affect. Is the door open or closed? How many people are currently on my scene? The communications between us, like we're having right now in Facebook Spaces. So that is going to be addressed through WebRTC, through a peer-to-peer mechanism to allow people to have instant communication. So just like we're doing right here through a proprietary application, the Decentraland team is looking to use WebRTC as the mechanism to allow users to have that same experience, but through the browser. Okay. So that's the other component.
And WebRTC is like user datagram protocol based, so it allows massive multiplayer and other cool features like streaming video to a headset.
This is for things like, in theory, you can do video through WebRTC, although the initial primary use cases would be for voice chat, position of the different people in the scene, for items like objects are there that are short-term, not permanent, as part of the land. And then you're correct. You can then have whatever data you want being communicated back and forth, whether it's video streaming, audio streaming, etc.
And massive multiplayer. Like with that
That's
wouldn't.
right.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
it's a good foundation. WebRTC.
These are possibilities, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Great. All right. So this is this slide right here is an example of your smart contracts and the voice chat at the P2P layer
Right.
and position items and cool.
Right. So the bottom part, it's kind of like the bottom part describes the land contracts, the tile coordinates, and then pointing to an IPFS address. And then the layer on top of that is the P2P server that has shorter term content. So, which users are currently logged in, what sort of objects are in the scene, if there's short term game data, if it's game or real time applications, etc.
Okay. So how large is a single unit of land relative to an avatar? Or is it
the goal? So the prescribed amount is 10 meters by 10 meters for each parcel of land.
Okay.
And there's nothing that stops people from, first of all, you can build as high as you want. So there's no height restrictions.
Okay.
And then there's nothing stopping people from messing with scale. So they're not encouraging people to do this, but you mentioned where you enter your land and there's like a tiny little world that then you can go into. So,
okay.
You can imagine worlds within worlds here.
Yeah, so really you just you sort of need one piece of land per user, kind of, situate per location.
Yeah, if you want your own space, yeah. I mean, if you want to start collaborating with other people, the goal is to have a collaborative environment where you can actually go from parcel to parcel.
Okay.
So if you start having this little micro world, you're making the whole goal in the first place, but you can't stop people from doing that. It's an open system. Can do whatever they want.
Fascinating. So that's
like some of the examples in the 360. You can build up as tall as you want and use height to your advantage.
Amazing. It's amazing. That's awesome. And I love the mindset of this is all decentralized, and so we're going to allow the people and the communities to make their own thing. And it's kind of like it's almost like it's out of your guys' hands, though, right? Because of the way you designed it.
Right. And you'll notice that a lot of other crypto communities or applications that involve content have similar problems. So there are social networks now that run on top of Ethereum. And one of the issues by design is that there is no concept at all of blocking content. You can't hide content. It's always going to be on the blockchain. So there's no censorship. And so this introduces questions of, well, how do you deal with that? What if there is objectionable content?
Wait, so do you store the actual, so someone builds a house, is that in their space, does that become stored on the blockchain?
So what's actually stored in the blockchain is the hash that points to the IPFS file that then, and that's immutable. In other words, once you create and upload a file to IPFS, you can't change it. It's up there forever. Changing the file changes its hash. So the hash is the file. They relate to each other directly. So if someone makes objectionable content, it will always be there. You can't erase it. Now, what you can do, and what a lot of crypto content sites do that have to deal with this problem, is to have essentially block lists or white lists that the client uses. So Decentraland will have the official client that runs in the browser, but there's nothing that's stopping from anyone making their own client. So even if Decentraland has its own whitelist or black for blocking objectionable content, there's nothing that stops someone else from adding that client, if you will, and saying, here's the unfiltered, uncensored version of whatever content's out there.
Okay. So that's just part of the give and take of right now.
Yeah, it's by design.
Yep,
it's by design.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I mean, when you start peeling back the layers of the onion, decentralization has its pros and cons. I think the theory here is that it has more pros than cons, and it really is up to the community what it does with this content.
So communities essentially have to be self-policing And the one thing developers like Decentraland can do is to just give more policing tools to individual communities that they could opt to use.
Right, and I would say that, reading a lot about kind of alt space, a lot of the issues they faced was around objectionable content and also objectionable users. So it's not to say it's something to be ignored, a big problem to address. I think the point here is that there is no one perfect solution, and that the goal of this is to be open enough the communities themselves can help implement their custom solution, or they can use whatever centralized, default solution that the client provides.
Great. Any other highlights you want to cover before we're not going to go too long, but maybe one more point you're going to share at the upcoming talk, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I think one of the other really exciting things, actually, the editor.
Yep.
So in terms of stages here, I'll kind of point out two more things. So,
okay.
Decentraland gone through different milestones, which are called ages. So right now we're at the Iron Age.
Okay.
And the Iron Age is essentially building it out so it actually works.
Yep.
And there's a proof of concepts. And the target user right now are developers and content owners, so landowners, to be able to build out their experiences. So that's where we are right now. And as a key part is making sure, hey, there's a way to actually create this content. And so right now, already live is the Decentraland editor. It's based off of the A-frame inspector. And so you can actually create scenes, upload them automatically to IPFS. So that's included as a feature in the editor itself. So you're able to bring in objects in OBJ format or PDF format. Also various primitives and applying textures to them. You can actually import objects directly from Google Poly, Google Blocks. And then you can actually go online right now and try out the editor at editor.decentraland.org and see what it looks like. So it runs in the browser. It's pretty big at this point, and it's based off of the A-frame editor, but it's more than enough to getting things created and to share them with.
Hey, are you there? So, I just I lost us for a second, but let me just put this here. So, hey, look what that is. That is actually from it's an early version of the Decentraland image. We'll go ahead and wrap it up. So, if you guys want to see the whole and complete talk, then you're going to want to come to our event, San Francisco Virtual Reality. It's the web address is sfvr360.com, and you can also go to developer.decentraland.org. Is that correct? Editor.decentraland.org. Do you want to put that back up there one more time?
Sure. Yeah, it's the proof of concept of the.
Here we go. Oh, and you got to share it one more time. Okay. So you guys see that right there? Let me move the camera a little closer. So that is editor.decentraland.org, and you can also visit decentraland.org. So if you want to hear the full talk by, let me move that out of the way. Can you grab that? Hold that down for a second. Yeah. So if you guys want to hear the full talk in full detail with Kieran in real life, go ahead and visit SVGN.com and come to our event. It's going to be on November 30th at Microsoft Reactor in San Francisco. So thanks, everybody. See you later. Bye, Kieran. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, Micah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.